Well, welcome, Wyoming, and thank you always to your Wyoming State Survey Agency for the CMP grant that has allowed the whole state of Wyoming to learn about culture change. And there's several aspects to our grant, and I will end up talking about all of them as we go. But this is webinar 5 called Honoring Sleep Leads to Health and Fewer Falls and True Choice. In fact, it leads to a lot more than that, but you know, you can only put so many words in a title, right? So I sure thank you all for joining me today. And it's one of my favorite topics. I've done a lot of research on it. So my contribution tends to be looking at the culture change practices and also the regs. And, you know, there's even other angles, but that's what we're going to do today for our time together. So I am curious if you still wake residents up in the nursing home that you represent. And what I'd like to try here, everyone, is a poll. I have a poll, and there it is. Get ready. Here we go. I'm going to launch the poll. Does your culture, so if you represent a nursing home, please answer yes or no. Does your culture still wake residents up in the morning? I'm only talking about in the morning for breakfast, not any other time. Does your culture still wake residents up? And there's at least 2 of you representing nursing homes today. If both of you could do the poll, hopefully you have access to the poll. Yes, there we go. Okay, thanks. And here we go. We're going to end poll and share it. So 1 home represented today still wakes in the morning and 1 of you does not. And to be honest, that's better than both of you still waking up residents, right? So kudos to you all. Just 2 homes represents both, 50%. So, you know, the next question is why? Why do you wake residents up? And I'd love for you to think about it. Make yourself answer it. Why do we wake residents up? And I'll tell you, let's see, maybe even put in the chat box, why? Why do you wake residents up? I'll make you, I'll just sort of force an answer if you wouldn't mind. And it tends to be pretty much the same answer whenever I ask. And I know we have Ombudsman on the line. You're welcome to also answer. Why do we wake residents up? Okay, here we go. Nope, not yet. Can you guys try to answer? Anyway, I'll keep watching that. What I usually hear, are you ready? One CNA once said it the best, in my opinion. She said, well, because of the almighty schedule, that's why. For the schedule, that's usually what it boils down to. It's a schedule we've put together, shifts we've put together, meal times we've put together, right? And then it also says, someone sharing here, thank you, Pam, only if residents are incontinent and need to be changed. Do you guys wake people up? That's good. We'll talk about that as well. And then sadly though, what happens when we do all this waking of people when they're not ready to wake up on their own, natural awakening? This happens, everyone. And this is not meant to be at all disrespectful, but in the culture change movement, there's a sweet story that ended up calling this, what you're looking at is slumping. It causes a lot of slumping when people maybe have been awoken a lot during the night and then also in the morning, and they did not get adequate sleep. And, you know, it's just sad. People pay a lot of money to live in a nursing home, and to be given this often is what they get. And we can do better than that. It's really fun to look at how we can handle sleep and awakening much differently. So here's my next poll. Ready? Oh, it's so funny. Poll number 2. Poll number 2. Launching. What would you rather be? Oh, excuse me. Would you rather be sleeping right now? You can be honest. I'm not offended. Just curious. Would you rather be sleeping right now? And maybe some of you would not rather be sleeping, but there we go. So 2/3 of you, yes. I would probably say me too. I would never pass a nap if I could take one. I'm a napper. Come from a family of nappers. I love, adore sleep. But, some people are wide awake at this moment and they don't prefer a nap, or they prefer learning. But notice, just out of 3 people, what the majority say: yes, I'd rather be sleeping. So sorry, here, you can see it now too. And I find that interesting. And if you were to ask people who live where you work, the notice I'm avoiding certainly the word patients and even the word residents. And if you didn't know, Wyoming, kind of as a group, those involved with this culture change initiative have decided to refer to the people who live in a nursing home as neighbors. Why? Because it's more natural for them. It may not be natural for us. Like, we don't look at them as neighbors. They're not our neighbors. And then it may sound like an arbitrary title, but it's not. They are neighbors to one another. And several homes in the Focused Culture Change Project are doing this. And even our Wyoming Culture Change Coalition Steering Committee has decided to do this. And I didn't see that coming, Wyoming. I think it's really neat. Anyway, if we think of the people who live there, the neighbors, what would they too say? And if we kind of look at that picture again, if people are falling asleep in their wheelchair, they're telling us, I need to sleep. And wouldn't it be better and healthier for people to be in their bed? To be honest, there's somewhat of a safety issue when people are sleeping in their wheelchair. There's certainly like a positioning issue. And if you try to help someone eat when they're actually asleep, that is risk to safety. And so in my mind, all the more reason for, helping people get adequate sleep and not waking them up on our schedule. So then I have so many things to think about. How many of you like to not set your alarm clock? Anybody? And, I just almost get giddy, no joke, giddy when I go to bed and I do not have to set an alarm. It makes me so happy. And I've heard people say, like, that's their description of like a blissful morning is to sleep until you wake. How do you like getting to do that? What is a blissful morning to you? I'd be curious. What if I invited you, made you decide to describe what's a blissful morning? What comes to mind? I'm just curious. How would you end up describing it? Feel free to share in the chat box. Then we have this to think about. How many of us are even getting enough sleep, right? And remember, and have you ever thought of this? I'm sure you have. They are us. They were us. They were working hard, raising families, working jobs, more than one, going home to take care of children or parents or animals, right? And did they get enough sleep? Or, just like we might not be getting enough sleep right now, they were us, right? And now they have no job to get up to and go to. They have no obligation they have to get up for. Isn't that something? We could be using this to our advantage, everyone. When you move into a nursing home, you do not have to do anything. You don't have to make lunch. You don't have to go shopping. You don't have to vacuum. You don't have to get up at any certain time. So all the more reason, again, to honor sleep. I just love realizing these things. My mom used to say, sleep is like medicine. Isn't that sweet? And she's right, isn't she? And then she would say, whatever ails you, if it's emotional or physical, just go to bed. It'll be better in the morning. I love to add, it's actually biblical. And then I've come to say sleep is better than medicine. How about you? None of us really want medicine. Would you rather have a super good night's sleep and you needed no medicine to make that happen? So how many of you agree? Sleep is like medicine. Sleep is better than medicine. So then we have to ask ourselves, why in the world do we keep waking people up? Why? So I mentioned the almighty schedule. People have said the get up schedule. Now think about that. Who sets the get up schedule? We do. And I'm sorry to say, it's sort of like we're treating people like, widgets on a conveyor belt, right? Like, hopefully this isn't happening as much as it once was. I don't know, but there's a list, and night shift is supposed to get up these people, and day shift is supposed to get up these people. And now you might be a get up or you might be a put down at night, these weird words. And And then again, it's according to our schedule. And then of course, breakfast time drives it, right? Maybe bathing, maybe meds, right? And really, whose schedule is a nursing home supposed to follow? Interesting, huh? I'm going to show you. So I have lots of interesting findings in regulations. We'll start with self-determination, tag 561. Residents have the right to choose activities and schedules. I'll come back to the red part. Healthcare and providers of healthcare services that are consistent with their interests, assessments, plan of care. So residents have the right to choose. Here's what I would point out: schedules, period. Residents have the right to choose their own schedules. Did you know that? That is huge. And does that really happen in your home, the home you represent? Then CMS added this part that is in red, and it says including sleeping and waking times. Well, so this is an addition to the new regs that came out in 2016, and it's good. I'm glad it's there. However, I really wish they had made it stronger. I don't know if you've ever given comment when there's an open comment period for new regulation, and I really tried. I really thought, what if CMS made honoring sleep its own regulation? Like, let's give it more attention. And hopefully in an hour from now, you'll maybe even agree, because sleep is really the healthiest thing we can do for people, and we call ourselves healthcare, right? Okay, so they added a little bit about sleeping and waking, yay. However, there's also a problem, and here it is. Ready? This kind of language has caused people to walk around with a clipboard, right? And say this. Ready? Hey, Courtney, what time do you want to get up? Hey, Pam, what time do you want to get up? Hey, Paula, what time do you want to get up? Okay. And there's a problem with that. Do you realize? What if, first of all, we all said the same time? Well, they can't do that anyway, right? So too bad. Why did you even ask? And if we are moving in the direction of honoring sleep, natural awakening, and recognizing how important sleep is, then we're not going to wake people up at all. Now, if someone asks you, please wake me up every morning at 6, of course you will, but let it be per request. And what I have come to learn, and what I would even recommend, is that we make the focus on honoring sleep, supporting health by supporting sleep. Okay. And you just start to teach and tell people, we don't wake people up here because sleep is so important. Do you like sleep? Okay. Then look at this. Now, look at what happened to choice. Okay. The words up there, the right to choose schedules, including sleeping and waking times. Guess what? When your body sleeps until it wakes up, I realize that is true choice. Huh. So it's so interesting. Like, true choice gets lost in those words. Don't let it. True choice is natural awakening. And then also in the bold there, the right to make choices about aspects of his or her life in the nursing home that are significant to the resident. And to be honest, sleep would be high on my list. It really would. Perhaps it's high on your list. So it continues to flow, but I should have the right to make this choice that my body decides when to wake up. All right, here comes some more. Right here, same tag, 561. Now down in the guidance, okay? Let's take a look at this. Yep, good. Residents have the right to choose schedules consistent with their interests, assessments, care plans. This includes choices about schedules that are important to them, such as waking, eating, bathing, going to bed at night. Choice about schedules and ensuring residents are able to get enough sleep is an important contributor to overall health and well-being. I don't know why I don't have that in bold, silly me. Residents also have the right to choose healthcare schedules consistent with their interests and preferences, and information should be gathered to proactively, favorite word, assist residents with the fulfillment of their choices. And it keeps getting better. Nursing homes must not develop a schedule for care, such as waking or bathing schedules, for staff convenience and without the input of residents. Wow. Pam Schrecker, you brought up convenience. And did you all know it's actually in the regs that we are not supposed to do that? The nursing home you represent, is not supposed to have schedules for the convenience of staff. Most nursing homes don't know that, do they? And if surveyors started to really look at this, I have a feeling we would see it cited more often. And to be honest, when that happens sometimes, it really helps to turn the tide. It helps us to do what the regs actually tell us we're supposed to. I think it's exciting. Now, everyone, what are some benefits of being well rested? I'd love for you to think about that and even chat some in the chat box for me, would you? I'm just going to wait a moment, and I'd love to also know who's here today. I see Granite. Who's here from Granite? Hello, Patty Hall. Welcome. What are some benefits of being well rested, everybody? Christina Kennedy, welcome. Where are you from? And one more. Who is the DON? We have a DON on the line. Curious who you are and where you're from. It's just fun for me to see who's here. And we have an answer. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Aha, better mood, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. What else? Is there anything else? Is it only better mood? There's lots of things. Better emotional health. Pam says, thank you. And anybody else? Well, I'm going to give you my long list. Here we go. You brought up mood right away and emotions. There it is. Less depression and anxiety. We all are more alert, right? Able to take in the day. Think of an older person living with a lot of medical conditions or the dementia. We want to help them be more alert, right? Not needing the nap or slumping in the wheelchair. More energy. Our immune system is actually built up when we sleep. Really? There's a reason not to wake people up. Did you know protein is synthesized, tissue repairs, and muscles grow? Wow. And in the morning, we're better, we're clearer. Here it comes again, better mood. No, I hate this word. I try not to say it, but what we have traditionally called behaviors, those are much better. And did you know that having good rest in the research also equates to fewer falls? If you're concerned about falls, you could just honor sleep to prevent falls, if nothing else. To be honest, I think everything's better. If you think about it, our cells, what do our cells do? They regenerate. Do you realize healing takes place when we sleep? And it just makes no sense to me that we don't do everything we can to protect people's sleep, to honor sleep, support sleep. And I hope after this, you might be inspired to do more of it. There are many better outcomes when people get good sleep. And I'm going to talk about a lot of them. And so this practice actually kind of represents just to stop doing something, right? Sometimes in changing institutional culture, it's about stop it. Don't say those words. Don't do that practice. And this just happens to be kind of an example of stopping something, stop waking people up. And then I just wanted to bring in that in the culture change movement, leaders have pointed out that we have to do a lot of unlearning. See, this goes against the grain of everything we've ever known. We wake people up, of course, like maybe we're proud of it. And here's an example of maybe that's not the right thing. So it's going to help you create a new way and a new culture. Now, so much to share with you. From a research study, it does deal with patients, people in a hospital, but look at this. JAMA points out waking people during the night may actually cause more harm than good. I would agree. Given what we know about sleep disruptions and how detrimental they are to actual clinical outcomes, we would hypothesize that decreasing sleep interruptions in this low-risk population, those not needing to be woken for some acute medical reason, would improve outcomes. And if left alone and allowed to sleep, that's kind of sad, allowed to sleep, will likely heal faster and, of course, have a better attitude, right? So, okay, there's a reason to do it. All right, what about this, everyone? How many of you have ever maybe worked as a CNA? Do we have anyone, nurses on the line? Or even moms? have you ever had to wake someone else up? What's it like to wake up somebody else? Someone give me some words. What's it like? And thank you. We have some great answers here. Good sleep makes you feel better physically. You're not as droopy, helps reduce pain. Yep. And helps with your cognition. Thank you. And what is it like? So yes, for the resident or the person living there, they are startled when woken. So thank you, Pam. That is absolutely true. And when someone is startled, different things could happen, right? The startling could, I suppose, cause them harm, heart palpitation, I suppose. I've heard of when people are now awake, and then maybe if we end up like, sorry, at night, we go in or check and change, and then they're awake and they're restless. And this kind of goes together now they might get up and fall. What's it like also for us? Right. So we hate disturbing someone when they are sleeping. Patty says, I hate it, Patty. I hate it. Wow. We're like sisters, Patty. I hate it so much that when my husband and daughter ask me to wake them up, I'm so weird. I can't do it. I tell them, if you really mean it, set your alarm. I'm so weird about this. And Granite, thank you, says it's very awkward for the staff, at least for me. I hate waking people up. Look at that, the word hate. And Pam says, I personally get really grumpy when someone wakes me up. That's right, everyone. That's right. We've got to take this into consideration. Now think about this. We are lacking staff. People don't want to work in a nursing home. And then we say, well, we'll pay you a good minimum wage. And you can wake people up who don't want to get up. And sometimes there's a battle. You might get hurt. I hate to say, but it's happened, right? But hey, come work for us. Do you realize it could lead to staff retention and staff recruitment to honor sleep? Life is so much better for everyone. And we're not even halfway through, guys. I have so many positive outcomes to share with you. Other terms I've heard: awful, to wake people up, terrible, intrusive, invasive. Thank you. You guys use the word hate. I think it really is a good descriptor. All right, so what could we do instead? I love to just bring up this idea. I love this image of tiptoeing. I would encourage each of you listening to this to really start talking about tiptoeing because it's a fun way to depict what we could start doing instead. And that is that you tiptoe into this room and you look sleeping and you look sleeping. So now what are you going to do? Tiptoe back out of the room in order to honor sleep. Isn't that great? So maybe talk about tiptoeing and not waking people up, and then we can honor their schedule. And this is also a practice I love to point out that does not cost money. People have taught me it's a budget neutral practice. Usually when you stop something, it doesn't really cost. Another way to think about it, everyone, is what I love calling redesigned work. So guess what? You're going to help everyone still get up and get dressed. It's all still going to happen. And the best part is it won't be on the institution's schedule. It will be on the individual's schedules who live there. And really, like, schedule is a bad word because it implies it's planned, right? It'll be on the person's natural circadian rhythm, their natural awakening, which is also different every day, right? If I had a bad night's sleep, please honor sleep so I can catch up. I just thought of this. It's like we worry more about food than we do about sleep. And to be honest, the answer with the food is called open dining. So you have open dining times where people can come early and then come late to get meals. And you have a window. And I don't have time on this webinar to go into that, but that will be part of the next webinar. So I just love thinking about how you're still going to help everyone get up eventually, but now you do it according to what's really happening. So you tiptoe and you look and you listen for who's awake. You naturally know probably right now who tends to wake up early. So you obviously, common sense would tell us to help them get dressed and get up first. And if you do have early risers, do they get to eat early or do they have to wait? So open dining can really help on both sides. Then we also have that whole issue of maybe someone doesn't even care about breakfast. And I love to just ask you, how many of you don't eat breakfast? I did not eat breakfast most of my life, my adult life. I just didn't need to. um, and people who don't eat breakfast, they've heard it. They know. Everyone says it's the most important meal. We've heard it, but some people still don't eat it. And now, what about people who live there? Maybe they don't care about breakfast. Maybe they'd rather get to sleep. Who gets to decide if what's more important, sleep or food? And to be honest, it should actually be both. Like if I didn't eat breakfast, I tend to want lunch kind of early around 11. And could I have that if I lived in your nursing home? Sadly, we've also taught residents right in this arena right here, we've taught them learned helplessness. Again, I've learned this from culture change leaders. And I remember an administrator doing this in Missouri many years ago saying, we teach people who live there, the neighbors, learned helplessness. And what he meant was, we tell them, you have to get up. You have to get up. It's breakfast time. So they learn, I guess I have to get up. I don't have any choice. Isn't that sad? So sad. And so they start to think, well, if I just let them get me up and let them take me to the mealtime and eat a couple bites of toast, then I can go where? Back to bed. Do you realize not only is a very sad learned helplessness, poor quality of life going on there, but it's also a waste of staff time. So I love culture change practices because they tend to be very efficient. When you go along the lines of what people really want and when, it tends to be more efficient and you end up saving money instead of wasting money. And so now that staff member did not need to get that person up. He or she could have been helping other people get up. And while this person sleeps and you go to them later. So it really makes a lot of sense in my mind. And residents have the right to not eat breakfast, of course. They have the right not to be woken up. Here's some other beautiful resident right tags. Residents have the right to request, refuse, or discontinue treatment. So I suppose it doesn't matter to me whether we consider sleep a treatment or not. It just shows you how strong it is of their rights. They have the right to, it used to say they have the right to refuse treatment. And it just was so strong. And it's actually stronger now because they have the right to request and they also have the right to discontinue. But, sleep could be put right in there. They have the right to sleep, okay? We could call it a treatment and we don't have to. Either way, it's the same. Then residents have the right to choice. We just looked at that one. So the choice to sleep. And look at this, residents have the same rights as any US citizen. Oh, my favorite. And if you want to sleep as a US citizen and they want to sleep as a US citizen, they get to. I've also seen wise teams, wise administrators start to go after this issue under the umbrella of rights, starting to ask people, do you really even want us to wake you up? You decide. Do you want us to wake you up in the middle of the night? You tell us. How many times would you like those who can tell you, start talking to them about it. And it'll just feel better. If they want you to wake them up, great, wake them up. If they don't, they told you not to. And if there are other medical issues, everyone, you work on it, you talk about it, you work it out, you get a plan. How are we going to deal with whatever it is, the incontinence, right? I'm going to bring that up some more later. All right. Then we have the whole spectrum. What if you like to stay up really late at night? Could you do that in the nursing home that you represent? And hopefully you can, and it's a non-issue, but sometimes it has been an issue in the history of nursing homes. A lot of people are told it's bedtime. Isn't that sad? I hope nobody does that in your culture. Sometimes we forget that we are adults. We are all adults. We have adults taking care of adults. And you don't tell a fellow adult to go to bed. And the other thing that happens here, I'll tell you in a minute. Have any of you heard this? Honey, I've been through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, taught 3,297 children, administered 4 elementary schools, and outlived all my friends and relatives. I'm 91 years old, and you are telling me it's bedtime? There it is. Feel free to take it, use it. It's so powerful. Then, something else to think about, if someone does not go to bed when we think they should, I sure hope this doesn't happen anymore, but in our history, we sometimes have called that, who knows what, insomnia. And then what does a person get for that diagnosis of insomnia? They get a medication. And do you realize that, to be honest, that is unnecessary drugs, and that could even be a chemical restraint? And I'm sorry to say it, but it's the truth. And so, having been a surveyor myself and studied the regs my whole career, I've realized something, everyone, that we have to match people better. So if you match who they are, what they want, their schedule, it's better for everyone. If you don't match them and you make them do what you think they should, and let's just go back to that bad example, medications to go to sleep, even though they just didn't want to go to sleep, that is actually non-compliance. So here comes a lot more about this. So under 741, non-pharmacological, I'm going to say approaches, everyone. The word approach is so much softer. And I do believe it's actually what we meant. We do not have to use that harsh medical word, interventions. So non-pharmacological approaches. And one of them, this is under meeting behavioral health needs, is, look at this, individualizing sleep and dining routines, as well as schedules to use the bathroom. Yay. And so I do a lot of work with helping to prevent falls, and anything you can do around the bathroom tends to prevent a lot of falls, because most falls are because of someone needing the bathroom. So I'm happy to see all of this here, individualizing sleep and dining routines, as well as using the bathroom. So that's right in the reg. Here's another one, a different reg, 697, pain management. Residents are at high risk for pain that may affect function, impair mobility, impair mood, and disturb sleep, and thereby diminish quality of life. So notice sleep and quality of life come together here. Some other things I've seen at some other CMS tags where sleep comes up. Are there sleep disturbances or changes because of mental or psychosocial difficulties or PTSD or abuse? And another one, how would we ever know unless we support a person's personal sleep routine? You know, unless we support someone's individual sleep routine, how would we really know, you know, what works well for them or not? We got to get to figuring out what each individual needs and how they do best. Examples of negative potential or actual outcomes. Now, this is regarding position change alarms, which most homes don't use anymore, but I want to show you that sleep disturbances also came up here due to the sound of alarms or residents afraid to move. So you could expound on this. Are there other sleep disturbances due to other sounds or other problems with mobility? You know, we've learned over the years that noise tends to be an issue in most nursing homes at night. If you've never done your own study about that, I highly recommend it. And I'll tell you why. Whenever I've come into contact with someone, usually an administrator, who actually had the guts to become a resident in their very own nursing home, one of the first things they noticed is all the noise at night. And so you too could just kind of do your own experiment or study or talk to residents and find out what noise is like during the night. So what we've learned here is that honoring the institutional schedule instead of individual schedules is actually non-compliance with federal regs and probably state regs as well. Why? Because they usually mimic the federal. Here comes some more, lots of stories and research I'm going to share with you. Here's a home in 2008 that just stopped waking residents up, and they tout that the outcomes were much happier, people who are more content, and of course better rested. Not as many people are getting out of bed during the night, or not as many are sleeping in the middle of the afternoon, napping. And also, they tell a story. In the case of one resident, there was no more battle. There it is. That was, making her get up. And look at this. Instead of making her feel as if she had to be up at a traditional breakfast time, they flipped it. And everyone made it all about her. You get up when you want. And as a result, she's more rested and pleasant. Wouldn't we all be? Oh, it's so common sense, I think. All right, here's a story where, this is pretty common. Day shift used to get people up starting at 6. I've certainly heard it earlier than that, but this is a true story in Minnesota. Night shift CNAs were expected. So again, who's it all about? This was about the institution, the shifts, the workload. So some night shift CNAs were expected to get a group of residents up, whether or not they were awake or wanted to get up. And there's a picture of choice being denied, and we're supposed to give choice. And then once they no longer woke people up, guess what? They didn't even need as many people in the nursing home at 6 a.m. I love this story. So they started to stagger shifts, and some CNAs came in later. The expectation of night shift to get residents up was eliminated. So think about, why are residents being woken up? What are the expectations? And you could stop that. You could remove that expectation. It's so, so good. Then here's another. I don't know if this is the same home. I got to think here a minute. Residents are only helped up if someone wakes naturally and wants to get up. So a fair number of residents got up around 7. I think it's the same home in Minnesota. The majority were up by 9. There were some 10 or later. And then they treated it as a care team opportunity to coordinate. And they were given freedom as a team to adjust their own hours, their own work hours as needed, depending on the needs of the people who live there. And so then this shift in thinking not only honors sleep for those who live there, but now it ends up honoring the people who work there and their own personal needs for their schedule. Isn't that beautiful? I call it a win-win. All right, another way to support sleep, something to think about. If you have labs coming in early, I've heard as early as 4 sometimes lab companies come. Just something we've learned is to tell your labs they can't do that anymore. And I'll be honest with you, they want your business. So they'll probably work with you to not lose your business. You could look this up, everyone. I just looked it up once, just online. What are some foods that are known for helping people sleep? So it's kind of an odd list. Cherries and cherry juice apparently is very good for sleep. Bananas, that one kind of makes sense to me. Pretzels, some good carbs, I guess. Hummus and tuna. I don't have tuna before bed. But I think the point would be protein. So maybe you like protein in a different way. Maybe like peanut butter comes to mind on that banana, maybe. But one idea I'd like to pass on to you is, do you know what someone might like as a bedtime snack so their tummy is full? And of course, not everyone wants a bedtime snack, but the idea is to help someone sleep with a full tummy. As well, what else could you offer for a good night's sleep? So I love, love, love this, okay? Oh boy. Are you if we were together, it'd be so much fun. Raise your hand if you're a fan person. Raise your hand if you hate the fan. Raise your hand if you got to be warm enough. Do you need more pillows than most people? Excuse me, blankets than most people. Some people want really warm. Some people want not so warm. Some people want the temperature really cold. Some people don't want it really cold. Some people wear socks like me. I have terrible blood flow and I'm so cold I can't fall asleep if I'm cold. Other people go, socks, are you kidding me? Right? And then how about pillows? How many of you have lots of pillows? I do not want lots of pillows. I just want one good pillow. Are the blankets just right? Are they too much on one side or Are you cold? You need another blanket, a different blanket. Then we have the whole thing about the lighting, right? Do you want it pitch black? Do you need a night light? Do you want the windows, shades open, closed? You know, these are just wonderful questions you could start asking the people who live where you work. If there's issues with light and you maybe can't change it, maybe an eye mask would help someone. If sound, the roommate makes sounds, certainly earphones for the person staying up late watching TV, maybe. And or maybe earplugs could help someone. I wear earplugs and I know the best ones if you ever need to find out. My hubby stays up later and there's some noise and he's usually on a tablet and so there's light. So yep, I'm wearing the eye mask and the earplugs. But guess what? I get really good sleep. So I'm doing it. Then there's the whole idea of the chamomile kinds of tea, if that does it for you. Some people need a massage on their back. Some people like back scratchers. You could consider the essential oils. Lavender tends to help people relax, and that helps some people fall asleep. I've heard bergamot does the same. And then you could be famous. You could be a famous nursing home in Wyoming and actually offer what some have done and call a sleep menu. Maybe there's a different way to say it, but wouldn't it be beautiful to start to offer these things to the people who live where you work? Thank you. Patty's mentioning my kids love cereal before bed. That's a good snack. And Patty doesn't want one fan, she wants two. Yep, you're made for this stuff, Patty. Now, another besides noise at night, thinking about your practices regarding lighting at night. Some homes have given even the headlamps like to nurses or CNAs. It sounds weird, but the idea is to have a focused light if needed, rather than flipping on the overhead light. Some homes have put in dimmer switches. How wonderful. Some homes have purposely put in a lighted path to help residents get to the bathroom during the night to prevent the fall. Oh my goodness, I would do it. How about you? Now, lack of exercise can lead to poor sleep. So therefore, something else to think about is how intentional are you on helping people to move and walk and get exercise and go outside or go on an outing, get on the bus. I wrote a book with a colleague. Teresa would always say, you've got to have more outings. She's a nurse even, because people get pooped on the outings. So, hey, more outings. And so you know that people who are more active tend to sleep better. So that could be another whole angle to take with increased mobility, increased movement. We already said, you know, when you're well rested, you're less depressed and anxious, less falls. And guess what? All those fewer problems end up also representing a cost savings when you don't need the therapies, the treatments, the meds, the time dedicated by staff. Also, I think I've said this, you know, the institutional way we do things is not efficient, but meeting and matching people is way more efficient. And so again, self-directed, you know, resident-directed, individualized care really is a win-win. Let's see, clinical benefits have resulted in better sleep, better nutrition, better mood, and better outcomes when you go by an individual schedule. Some other data I've gleaned from beautiful books about these things. Barbara Frank actually was part of writing the Nursing Home Reform Act of 1987. She's a leader in her culture change movement. She's written several books. People began to acknowledge that quality of care is better when it is provided in the context of quality of life. I'm going to start quoting that more, everybody. You might perform clinically perfect treatments, but if you do them in the middle of the night so people can't get good sleep, guess what? You're working against your own perfect treatment and it won't work. OBRA requires that each resident gets individualized care. You got to give individualized. You can't give generic or institutional care anymore. Here's some more from her book, and she's a co-author. Practitioners who focus exclusively on clinical protocols, let's say they turn residents every 2 hours to prevent the pressure ulcers or heal them, even though now that interrupts with a good night's sleep. So does the waking up kind of delete the turning in a way? A better clinical approach is actually to individualize schedules to maximize sleep, minimize disruption, while also relieving pressure to prevent the pressure ulcers. A good night's sleep is essential to healing. Even wounds healing is better achieved when natural patterns of activity are known and followed. Here's some more. Waking people every 2 hours all night long disrupts sleep. Sleep, along with air and fluid, is one of the essentials for life. In fact, get ready, everyone. This is not pretty. Sleep deprivation, did you know, is a recognized form of torture. It's actually a war crime. You know, think of how, God forbid, in a prisoner situation, you keep your prisoners awake so that hopefully they give up the secrets of the enemy. According to the European Court of Human Rights, 1971. We're learning when we wake people throughout the night and early in the morning, according to our institutional schedule, we interrupt sleep, induce agitation, adversely affect the mood and appetite, the mobility, and even balance. Wow, this works against us. Here's a list: using restraints, disrupting sleep, dispensing dietary supplements, which we do too much, everyone, and overuse of things like suppositories or practices that actually provide a false sense of security, that we are meeting a clinical need, but not at its root cause. And instead, that intervention, that approach is having what they call an iatrogenic consequence. So that means that we're causing harm in a whole other way. An example of health promotion on the other side is honoring the natural waking time and thereby not provoking the distress that comes when they're half asleep and maybe stiff with early morning pain and forced to go to the dining room. Here's another whole angle. An architect actually lived in the nursing home and said this about sleep: I had to reset my expectations for a good night's sleep. Sleep was nearly impossible. Roommate mumbled through the night, door open, next to the nurse's station. I heard every nurse call, beep, and conversation that transmitted from what he called Grand Central Station all night long. If you really want to find out, go sleep in your nursing home. Something else I want to point out regarding noise: did you know that your call light system could be audible or visual? It doesn't have to be both. Most people don't know this. This has always been in the regs, and it still is in the regs, that you can have audible or visual. And you can have wireless systems. But if I ran a nursing home, I would just train everyone to watch for the light. I would also have porch lights instead of the institutional over the door call light system. And we would get rid of the noise, and we would train our eyes to be the ones to watch. Before you do it, let's just check the Wyoming regs. I don't think I've ever done that, but it's another easy practice, doesn't cost money, to honor sleep. And then here's another great story. This home noticed there were quite a few falls during the middle of the night. Interesting. Between 2 and 3, guess what goes on then? All the checking and changing. So the way they dealt with it was, let's make it a goal that everyone gets at least 4 hours of uninterrupted sleep. And by the way, 4 hours is what they call restorative sleep. It's when we have enough time to go into the deep dream sleep, the REM sleep, which is where our bodies do heal. And by the way, we're going to have a speaker speak more about that, a nurse who's done a lot of work with sleep in our March conference. But this home made that their goal. And they also made the goal between midnight and 4 a.m. where they would not interrupt. Sure enough, falls decreased and skin breakdown did not get worse. And now they moved the gap to 11 to 5 to get up to 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Woo. And they utilize the longer wear incontinence products. So that becomes the answer, everyone. And I just recommend ask your vendor to show you what they got and consider buying it for just those residents for which really need it. it's not everybody. And so you just got to look at the benefits from whatever that costs for the few people that would benefit from it. And so another thing to think about is we're supposed to give individualized care even at night. So find out how often people really need checked. Do they at all really? And we sometimes forget that not doing all the checking and changing, and in order to promote sleep and being better rested, also leads to better outcomes and things like not falling and that kind of thing. So many benefits. We've mentioned, I think, most of these, benefits on the side of the residents, the people living there, the neighbors, benefits for us as team members, benefits in more efficiency and savings of money, and really even better compliance with these regulations. Do you see all these good regs that you would actually be more compliant with than ever before? And what if we flipped it? What maladies are people living with because we interrupt their sleep? Isn't that interesting? And we also call ourselves healthcare. I feel sometimes like we're lying. I hate to say it, but if we're about health, let's honor sleep. So when you have people that are sleeping better and eating better and feeling better, you naturally have positive outcomes, including survey findings, was said by an administrator long ago. Something else I want to show you here under choices, we already looked at this, but under the procedures to the surveyors during interviews with residents and families, determine if they're given the opportunity to choose and whether staff accommodate their preferences for, look at the second bullet, their sleep cycles. That is good. Surveyors are supposed to look into that. And then just another point about language, everyone. I think I read this somewhere. I kind of pointed it out a little bit ago, but I want you to be aware that if we start to say, oh, we let our residents sleep in, or we allow our residents to sleep, there's a problem with that. And it's called pejorative language. Can you hear it? When we say, oh, we let, or we allow, it's still that, it's kind of like a misnomer. It's kind of like we have this odd institutional, like we're in charge of you, right? And again, remember, we're really not. Why? Because they're adults. So adults don't let adults do anything. So I want to just caution you, if you honor sleep, that's what you're doing. You honor sleep, you support sleep. We've changed our systems to promote sleep. We don't wake people up at all, unless for some reason they asked us to. Why? Because it's so important to your health and your well-being. Isn't that cool? So one other point about sleep has to do with getting outside. We are supposed to ideally get some fresh air and sunshine, sunlight. You can even get it through the window. I recommend in starting to remind people to maybe ask a resident, would you like to sit in front of the TV or in front of the window in the cold days? Because even sunlight through the window can affect us. Make sure the blinds are open as much as you can. Encourage people to get outside, because our bodies need to know that it's daytime so that they sleep better at night. That's how it works. And give this time, everyone. If you stop waking people up, what we've learned is they tend to keep waking up early because their bodies are used to that. It actually takes a while, 2 to 3 weeks, for people to get on their normal rhythm, whatever that is for people. So I'd love to ask you, how can your team and your culture and your systems, what's one idea you could take to your team to start honoring sleep better? And did you know that some athletes, like big teams, and believe that? And did you know the CDC has also called sleep deprivation a national epidemic? Epidemic sounds kind of like a pandemic, doesn't it? And I got that out of this book, The Sleep Revolution. Go read it if you want, or take, save your time and just intuitively, how important sleep is. We've been mentioning the artifacts tool, and we're using it in this project. There are 2 items on the artifacts tool now. So an artifact of a changed culture is that and honor people's sleep patterns and preferences. And then a second one is that these things are indicated in their care plan. Congratulations. I want to just do a shout out to our homes that are in the project. There's 5 homes in a specialized culture change focused coaching year. And I know Star Valley's on the line. South Lincoln is part of our group. Granite is on the line. Polaris just couldn't make it. They're going to watch the recording link. And one team had to drop out, and Life Care Center of Casper is now in the project. And let's see, I can tell you what they're working on, and you can just read it. It's very exciting. And the last webinar in this year will be them sharing what they did, their journey. Keep that in mind, everybody. That will be in March. And please keep this in mind, everyone, as well. We will need 5 more nursing homes to join and commit to implementing at least 3 culture change practices in 1 year and 2 monthly coaching calls, as well as these webinars. And I have to start advertising that we're going to have an online conference all during the month of March. It was supposed to be, a 1-day in-person thing. So instead, it's going to be over a whole month. And I'm sorry, this is kind of hard to look at, but every Tuesday in March is a free culture change expert speaking. And we're going to pay him money to do it. It's so exciting. The first one is shared leadership and learning circles, person-directed dining, valuing team members, community meetings, and restorative sleep. And I've asked every speaker to also link these practices to staff retention and recruitment, since that's an issue for everybody. And then you'll notice also on this calendar that we're having what we're calling special sessions, a 1-hour special session for residents on the 3rd, early in the month. We need your help to identify residents who might take part in this. Then we're going to have one for families. And then just keep following with me. On the 9th is activities, recreation, community life enrichment, folks. On the 10th, social services. On the 11th, dining. On the 16th, all therapies. On the 17th, nursing. On the 18th, all environmental services. On the 24th is surveyors. Sorry, Patty, there's a typo there. And hang on. Oh, there's another typo. Sorry. Interesting. Okay, I will figure this out. On the 31st, it says administrators, and I somehow have it surveyors twice. And Patty Hall's on the lines, your state surveyor, and we had a fun idea to invite ombudsmen to go to any of the sessions. Why? Because they interact with all of us. That's a specialty of theirs, to work with families and residents and professionals. And they liked that idea. So I will double check that and clean it up. And we got time between now and March, just needing to start tell you all. Also, please remember 2 big goals that the Wyoming Culture Change Coalition has identified is that everyone in a nursing home learns about culture change. So I'm going to send out the recording link within the hour, and you are welcome to spread it around to all your team members. Please do. Families, if you want, residents, it's okay. And then our number 2 is actually this topic to maybe someday every nursing home in Wyoming does not wake up residents in the morning. So exciting. If you'd like to join our committee or the next year, please let me know. Part of our movement is to change language as well. Notice I never said that word that starts with an F. Why? Because real people like you and me do not live in facilities. The word facility means building, like a school building is a facility. And so we're trying to bring about more natural words like home and community, or just use the name of your nursing home. Instead of patient and resident, like I said, person and neighbor, we're trying not to label people. Try not to let there be no labels ever again. No, not the feeders, not the hoarder, not the wanderer, isolator, screamer, complainer, frequent faller. Nope. Always go with the person first and describe what's happening. And I mentioned approach instead of intervention. And our next webinar will be, we changed this date. If you happen to have dates saved, thank you, Pam Schrecker. This was originally right after Thanksgiving Day. So we moved it to Monday, November 29th, 2 p.m. And it's going to be culture change and choices in dining. And voila, we did it. Does anyone have any ideas, thoughts? I'd love to hear some ideas or questions. What would you add to this whole topic today? And I'm going to allow you all to talk. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Anybody? Would love to hear from you.
So this is Danny from Granite. Hi, everyone. Just on the honoring sleep, I just wanted to kind of mention as well that I think something that we might have missed, or Carmen, I apologize. I was kind of doing other stuff and listening with half an ear, is choices, and that a lot of the control that people have over every aspect of their body, including bodily functions, is removed from them. Not necessarily by entering a facility, but it's something that just kind of comes with it. And so being able to control things like when they go to sleep, when they get up, is such an important part of just allowing them to still feel like a complete person, and that they still have that agency and that control over their own bodies too.
So well said. Thank you, Danny. You know, I'll just reiterate what Danny said, everyone. We, again, like as adults, we want to be in control. We've been in control our whole life, right? And so if there's ever a quote problem, guess what it tends to stem from? That I don't have the control over my life that I want. So thank you, Danny, for bringing that up. That's exactly right. Okay, anybody else, an idea or a question? If not, we did it. Thank you all for joining me today. The link will come out and we'll see you next month on the next webinar, okay? Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.